What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.
Story of my life. Welcome back to the Five. So they want to put the con in condo. Yep, San Francisco is considering a proposal that would make it illegal for landlords and employers to discriminate against applicants solely because they were once behind bars. Proponents think this will help ex-cons rejoin society. Critics fear will open the door to lawsuits by rejected applicants. Now, as a libertarian, I believe the property owner should be able to rent to whoever they want, with a distinction. You shouldn't discriminate against somebody based on who they are, be they black, white, or purple. But you can discriminate based on actions. If an applicant committed a crime, shouldn't a landlord have the right to find a tenant who didn't? I also think if you're hiring, you got to know if someone has a record. Then you can decide if you have the desire to take a chance on that person. I know that if I was looking for an accountant, I wouldn't want an embezzler. But if he was busted for egging Sean Penn's limo, I'd hire him pronto. So I'm not heartless. I want ex-cons to reintegrate, especially those jailed over non-violent, petty stuff. And at least under this proposal, sex offenders and violent criminals aren't protected. But remember, this is SF, so give it time. So, Bob, you know, without this kind of law, you would have no place to live, would you?
No, and unfortunately, my neighbors don't know about my record. Look, this is preliminary to what will be one of the biggest releases of prisoners in California history, which was ordered by the court. So this is going to be a big issue. Most of these people who are going to be released are people who are in jail because of drug issues. I see no reason why that should have to follow them out if they've served their time. They should not be discriminated against. They should not have to say that I was busted for dealing pot.
But is it discrimination if I want to ask you, if this is my building and I own it and I don't want a pot smoker or a guy that was in that ran a meth lab in my apartment?
Well, you can carry that wherever you want to carry. You say, well,
that's an action.
What if you say, okay, so is masturbation? Does that mean you're not going to let them be in the
illegal.
apartment?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think the violent criminals and sex offenders, that should have stopped this discussion pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
Listen,
Why does it always go sexual with you?
I don't know, Andrea, but I have to deal with 4 right-wingers, and that's probably why.
I'm sitting right here.
But what if somebody was an arsonist? I mean, if you're a landlord and you know that you're this ex-con was an arsonist,
or a pedophile, and there are other kids in the building.
That's also excluded from this ordinance.
This is, all right, ready? This is profiling.
Yeah.
And it's behavioral profiling, just like in the TSA line. If someone's doing something that doesn't look good, you know what? Profile them, take them out and say no. And just like this, if you're convicted of a crime, why can't I tell you, you're a convict, I don't want you in my building. There are a lot of people who are afraid of people like you.
Because you've served your time, society asked you to serve the time, made you serve the time, you've done it, you're now, supposedly, you've done it, and now you're a free citizen, and that should not have to haunt you every place you go.
Isn't this more of a property rights issue than that? I mean, if you own that place, you should be able to say who you want to rent to.
Where are you going to stop? Where are you going to stop? If you're a Muslim, you're not going to take it.
No, you stop. I'm talking. It's not who you are. It's what you've done.
Behavior, not racial, but behavioral profiling.
Well, so you're saying that if you get busted several times for smoking pot,
right?
And now you're released from prison and you've paid your debt to society, I should be able to know that as a landlord and not have to be able to put you in because you smoke dope?
As a landlord, I should have the right to ask that question. I may not ask that question. I may not care, but I should have the right to ask any question I want. It's ironic to me that you're labeled a criminal for asking about a criminal's background. Right. It doesn't make sense.
They don't ask that question if you buy a house, if you go for a mortgage.
I agree that criminals...
I think that in your credit check it does come up, I think.
Can the president have a criminal record?
Can the president?
Yeah. Can you run for president with a criminal record? I'm not sure, but I think not. But if you can't run for president with a felony conviction, why can't I ask if you have a felony before I rent you my house?
We're not talking about a rent at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue here. We're talking about a condominium in San Francisco.
Let's not compare the president to a convict yet. But I think that really criminals all agree with you that we do need to allow them to integrate into society. Absolutely. But if this guy or this gal was a former senior abuser and he goes to work in a senior home, or if they were a bank robber and they want to work in the bank, why can't that owner
under this ordinance,
of that
both
business
of those things would be excluded. Those are violent crimes.
What if it was a gang violence related, and you are the owner of the home and you don't want to take the risk that there's a recidivism rate, that somebody goes back into a gang situation, and then you can't kick them out.
What is the choice here? When you have thousands of people being released, you don't let them live because you don't want anybody in your neighborhood. You're going to put them all in some big factory someplace, and then that's going to be the biggest drug dealing operation in the country.
No, Bob, people like you will hire them. All the libs in San Francisco will take them in because you don't see the problem with it. Drug dealer, gang rape, whatever.
I'll tell you what I would do when they all get out. I'm buying tattoo parlors, man, because there's going to be some serious business coming down when that happens. But I just think the idea of punishing somebody, again, it's double jeopardy here. You're punishing somebody who served their time for non-violent crime.
Bob, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at it as if you own a piece of property, you should be able to be allowed to, or own a business, to ask the question. And we have to be clear. We're talking about non-violent criminals. This doesn't apply to violent criminals. But even then, if there's somebody who is a shoplifter, do you want him working at your 7-Eleven?
Well, what about action? Should you be able to ask them if they're gay?
That's who they are, not what they do.
Being gay is not a crime, just like masturbating,
well, unless you're in certain places in the South, it's not a crime. But I mean,
they can still apply for a city job. The city will not ask.
Look, here's where I have a little difficulty with this, and that is in the hiring thing. I think there is some legitimacy about that. That there is, if you have, I don't know what the definition of violent crime is.
You must have gone through security checks, Bob. How did you get through a security check?
My security check, I got it from the Freedom of Information Act when I worked at the Carter White House. It was 360-some pages long, and I found out, among other things, that my roommate was an FBI informant.
What's the difference between the business owner hiring and the landlord renting?
Yeah. What if being a landlord is your business? I mean, some people actually make their living that way.
That's a good point, and you've just slammed me down. Okay, I accept that. So I take it back. I don't think you should do it for hiring either. Look, I just think that you're taking people and making them a class of society that is sort of a forbidden fruit, and you throw them off in the corner, and it's just not fair.
You rehabilitated yourself, Bob.
Yeah, you were arrested when you were 14. Actually, he got worse. Ever since his arrest, he's actually gotten worse.
Ever since I got on this show, I've gotten worse. Bringing back all this stuff. This is what happens when you're outnumbered. But look, I still think that these people, you're going to make criminals again if you try to treat these people differently. Give them a break. Let them get back into society. Don't ask them to have their record follow them if they paid their debt to society.
That should be the choice of the person who's doing the hiring or renting. There's a lot of compassionate people out there.
No, you can't see that.
Can we see that 300-page document?
No,
if you want to, you could send your resume to Bob Beckel, and he will hire you.
Exactly.
I bet there were pictures in that.
Apply for stimulus money.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
All right, coming up on the 5. Oops, they did it again. Chrysler employees caught in the act, and we have the video. It's the top stories on Fox Nation that you're talking about when the 5 returns.